So welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday night Creator Convos. I'm Noel Marshall, and my beloved Bob Warner is behind the scenes helping out with tech. And welcome, we're going to have a wonderful discussion tonight. And it's going to be led by my dear friend, Mark Porteous, who goes all the way back to Barbara Marx Hubbard and birth 2012. And he's going to introduce me to two of his tribe members, Lisa Engles Witter, who also has a very strong connection to Barbara Marx Hubbard, and also to Ronda Renee. And I'm very curious and joyful that I get to spend this evening with you. So before I turn it over to you, Mark, I'm going to play a little bit, I'm going to play a little video about the Co-Creators Convergence, and as more people will come in. So welcome everyone. And just stay muted for a little bit until we open it up for discussions. Hold on. So that's a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. And I want to welcome everyone else who came into the room. Thank you for being here. And I'm looking forward to this evening. And Mark, you have just done a tremendous job over the years that I've known you. Since we met you in 2012, you were just starting out and didn't really know where you were going or what you were doing. And to see how you have blossomed, you know, it's been a decade. It's been a decade.
It's wonderful. I know we were just talking about that. Bob and I were just talking about that in our Revolutionary Agreements call, that this is our 10-year anniversary. I mean, we're coming up on days away from our, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about December 21st right now.
Well, I hope you all come back for that December 22nd when we're going to put something together. We are just looking at our archives, and we have so much video of Barbara Marx Hubbard and the Co-Creators Convergence. We've been meeting every year, and she always kicked it off. She always kicked off our New Year calls, and she always kicked off our gatherings. So we're going to share some of that, and we invite everyone to join us and bring some of your memories. That would be really just want to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, as well as, you know, it's Barbara Marx Hubbard's heavenly birthday that day as well. So let me tell you a little bit about my dear friend Mark, and then I'll turn it over to you, and you can introduce Lisa and Rhonda. So Mark is a soul connector. His stand is for all people to recognize themselves as divine beings who have chosen the human experience for a reason, and to live in alignment with that knowing, so they can thrive in their purpose of transforming lives. He helps mission-driven entrepreneurs to make soul connections so that they can impact and change the world, scale their businesses to 6 and 7 figures, and enjoy thrilling soul success in every arena of their lives. And I know that Mark has a very special event coming up December 8th. And so Mark, want you to tell everyone about that whenever you feel. This is a platform that we offer. So whatever happens, happens. And we record it. So you can enjoy it later. So without any further ado, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you everyone for coming.
Before you run away, Nicole, I just really want, you may have seen that I have the video that you shared with us of our kids 10 years ago getting into your airplane, and Eden going from crying in terror to just loving it and squealing with joy. So that was kind of the kickoff for our relationship, and that just happened a couple days ago.
They were 2 years old, and we flew down to see you and talk about birth 2012.
You were on your birth
great
2012.
memories.
Yes. And I think about that time and how I was still in my business and everything else, and just that connection that we made. And I just knew that we were on a lifelong journey together. And this full circle coming back here 10 years later is just super meaningful for me.
Wow.
So thank you.
That's amazing. We haven't aged a day.
Not a single bit. Just our kids. Only our kids.
Yeah, only kids. Okay. Oh, thank you
so much. Appreciate you and Bob so very much. You brought so many wonderful people into my life. I can't even count them. And I'm extremely grateful to bring in two of what I call my soul advisors. I first met Lisa Engles also almost 10 years ago at an event around creating collaborations within business. And right from the beginning, we hit it off. We had the same kind of vision and mission, and the same thing with Ronda Renee. From the moment that we met, it was this same thing that really ties us all together, and that we really want to talk about together today, which is about using business as a sacred path to create change. So my mission in this world is really about raising consciousness, and I'm aware that it is an inside job. So I need to work on my own consciousness, and that's really what I'm focused on. And my business is a great tool for that. And Rhonda has been an exceptional part of me figuring out my role and my place. And same thing with Lisa, like the whole path. I've just been so grateful to have these angels kind of lighting the way with me. And I'll let them share a little bit. In fact, I'm just going to go in chronological order. Again, I think we met Lisa in 2013 in November. And we just talked about this a little while ago. You were doing hangouts for visionary leaders.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was saying to you, like, that was when Google Hangouts were a thing. They are long since gone, those Google Hangouts. Yeah, that was a fun little stint I had, which was trying to get together people like you and other, heart-centered entrepreneurs and visionary leaders, and just having conversations with them. And that was what I was doing back in 2013.
And I remember talking though specifically about conscious evolution, and that you had read Barbara Marx's books, and that this was a big piece of why I was doing this work, and specifically that the wheel of co-creation and that idea of business and bringing spirituality into business. And it was just funny because of having that conversation, and then you being Barbara Marx Hubbard's business manager and partner really for the last 3 years of her life. So it's just, again, very interesting to be here today in this co-creators convergence with you.
Yeah, it's like full circle. And I think that when I had met you, I think I probably even remember, because you had already done Barbara's ACE program, right? And you had just come out of that. You were sort of like fresh out of that, like maybe not too long out of that. And I'm like,
oh my evangelical,
I love Barbara Marx Hubbard. I had seen Barbara Marx Hubbard in Ashland in maybe 2004. In the early 2000s, and it was for the Day Out of Time. It was like a 3-day thing in Ashland, and it was really amazing. And I just continued to follow her, and it was just it happens, as things go and all these synchronicities happen, that I was just in the particular time and place where I ended up meeting Barbara, and then working with her closely in her business and working on projects with her. She had a program called the Planetary Awakening Accelerator that I helped facilitate with her. So that was, yeah, it was really fun.
Evolutionary
to
Church.
Evolutionary Church. I produced and hosted that, and she was amazing. She never skipped a beat. I mean, it was just amazing. So such
Love
an
it.
inspiration, and wonderful to be here in this community, which was inspired by her and all of her work. So
At the beginning, we were sharing, what are your gifts to the shift? And I'm excited. We'll come back in a moment and have you share some of what has evolved for you as your gift to the shift. But first, let me introduce Ronda. Ronda Renee happens to live very near Sunset Ranch. Well, in Colorado, I guess that's close enough for me to say it's near Sunset Ranch. And I was first introduced at the Embodied Messengers experience through my friend Ken Stone. And I remember him telling me that he had received his divine coordinates, and I was intrigued to understand what his divine coordinates were, especially once he told me what they were. And I said, "Oh my God, that's who you are." And then when I got to finally meet Ronda in person at his event, there was again a quick connection. It wasn't long before I also discovered my divine coordinates and have been using that as a compass to help me on my journey of life. So Ronda, welcome and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, being included. I don't have a direct connection to Barbara Marx Hubbard, although I've read some of her things years ago. I tend to be I'm kind of over here just doing my thing. Oh, pardon me for not joining in sooner. And it's great.
You've been right along the evolutionary path with us the whole time.
The whole time, right? We just haven't actually met, right? And it kind of like, with you and also our dearly departed friend Alan Davidson, Ken was, very instrumental and was saying to me, like, you gotta meet Mark, you gotta meet Alan, you need to know these guys. It's like, okay. And then it finally happened, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's what needs to happen. Yeah, it's been fun to be on the journey with you.
One of the greatest tools that and we'll talk a lot about this over the next hour is the idea of being soul guided, and not trying to push the process, but not resisting it, and understanding that, if we're meant to connect, we'll connect.
For me, for sure. There's a lot of approaches that are, see who, like, visualize who you want to connect with, or reach out to them. And, there's all this effort involved in it. And what I know, and I know that you know as well, is that magnetism and the people that you're meant to cross paths with, like, that's what matters most. When we drop the agenda of where we think we're headed and we do really let our souls guide us, then we usually, almost always, end up somewhere better than we would have driven if we were driving the bus.
Always, 100% of the time. Yes. And it's great when you talk about the connection, like there's just so many connections that we have. Like you mentioned Alan, and I laughed. I even wrote down Alan when Noel was reading my bio, because those were Alan's words for who I was. And it made me smile to think about that, and the influence that all three of you had on me and had on each other. Like I love to see the way you and Lisa play together and all of that. But yes, Alan's influence and how all of us have that shared mission of using of creating soul self-expression and doing that through our business and the way that we show up. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today is how do we do that? How do we show up in our business, or however that might look? Because not everybody is really full-on entrepreneurs. They might be activists. They might be just showing up as parents or grandparents or caregivers or whatever that might look like. We particularly work with entrepreneurs, people that say, yes, I want to use my business as a tool. And in that process of us coming together, it was really your guidance. It was all of our guidance. That was our Soul Affiliate Alliance that created the Soulful Leadership Retreat that we did in 2020. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because the creation of that came from all of these synchronicities coming together, all of the paths and all of the people coming together. But the idea that all three of us hold of a new way of doing business. That's really what it was. And that actually came out of the co-creators convergence. I think it was in 2014. It was the second or third one, the time that I met Marion Head. That was what came out of it, was that the whole the way that we were going to create conscious evolution was creating a new way of being, and specifically for me, a new way of being in business. And both of you have given me such a guidance on that. Lisa, you have a whole like I don't guess the Western training and the Western philosophy, and like I hear you and Alan. I remember you talking about all of that mystic training, and Rhonda, you have such clear inner knowing, and that I really admire that, and I look for that light. I'd love to hear from each of you how that came in for you as business being a tool for conscious evolution. Lisa, do you want to start? And then I'll see. Yeah,
okay. I'll hop in. This is really good, like because I want to speak directly into how Soul Affiliate Alliance has supported me, and specifically Mark and Rhonda, because the three of us have worked so closely together and have been sort of working with what is a new way to do business for many years now. And both Mark and Rhonda were with me through all the years that I worked with Barbara Marx Hubbard, and they saw how I let go of the work that I was doing in order to spend time with Barbara and really get behind Barbara and help her in the ways that I felt like I had some gifts in marketing, even though marketing isn't my main thing that I do in the world. Like, I sort of dropped everything and I went and I helped Barbara. And then after her passing, I heard her, and I had been working already with Mark and Rhonda, and we had already been having our gatherings. And so they saw me go through this transition, and I kept hearing Barbara's voice saying, "What is your deepest heart's desire? Lisa, what is your deepest heart's desire?" And I'm like, yeah, my deepest heart's desire. And so what happened was, in the fall, our first sort of our gathering was in the fall of 2019, right? Is that right, you guys?
Yes.
And so it was me, Mark, Rhonda, Alan, and then another colleague of ours named Lars, and we got this amazing house in Florida, and we just hunkered in for, I think, 3 days and just visioned what Soul Affiliate Alliance was, but we also visioned for our own businesses. It was like this true experience of not just supporting one vision, but supporting, just like I think Barbara had envisioned, was like, we are each autonomous in and of ourselves, but we're also contributing to a greater whole. And it was during that time that I was making this transition from, Barbara had just passed, and I'm like, oh my God, my heart's desire. How am I going to do this? I had the support of you guys, and I had all of these, what I felt was like my soul calling me to do. And it was really there that the rebirth of my work in the world happened, but it also happened within the container of the birth of the Soul Affiliate Alliance as well. So it's been this really beautiful process that, as the birth of my work happened, it was almost at the same time as the birth of the Soul Affiliate Alliance in its newest iteration, because before Soul Affiliate Alliance, it was the Inspired Messengers Network. Right. And we really up-leveled that in our work together. And just the last word I'll say before I sort of close it off is, having these brilliant beings like Mark and Rhonda and Alan, all there just pouring their their attention and their souls as well into like, what is it that is like for each of us, our biggest gift, our, you know, the one thing that we can give, that only we can give, that if we don't give this gift, there's a corner of the world that will go left without, you know. And it was just to be in that space was absolutely amazing, and it continues to be that way in the Soul Affiliate Alliance. So
I love it. Such a beautiful synopsis of that experience. And it was amazing because that was October 3rd. It was right after Thanksgiving, right before, I'm sorry, Halloween. And I was like, not sure still.
Yeah.
We had figured out the dates for my event. And then I kind of chickened out and I said, oh no, I don't think I could do it, because I found out that it was like on the Super Bowl Sunday, February 2nd, even though Rhonda had helped us with her divine guides. You guys all, I'm not very good at like using intuition, or didn't used to be. I'm getting much better at that. And I was like, no, the dates were right. How could they be wrong? And I tried to cancel it. And the hotel said, yes, you can cancel it, but we're going to keep 90% of your money. We'll give you half of it back when you reschedule. And I was like, oh, it must be the right dates after all. And it was amazing. Of course, everything worked out divine. And it's just amazing that from November till February, we created this event. And since then, in just those 3 years, I remember what we were creating was your Karmic Warrior brand. And now
yes,
that's where you are.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Karmic Warrior, then I'll have Rhonda share her story.
Yeah, so the Karmic Warrior, the Karmic Warrior, it's all about, my belief is that our greatest contribution to humanity is our own awakening. And so really the mission of the Karmic Warrior and the work that I do is to guide people on and navigate people through that journey of awakening through using time-proven and tested principles and practices of yoga wisdom. That's it in a nutshell.
You did that so well. Love it. And again, I wanted to bring that in because that's what we were working on in 2019. And now to see that we're in harvest season is beautiful. And with Rhonda, it was, she'd already, had a lot of her brand already, a lot of the stuff. And it was just her up leveling, the next leveling. And we have her new website, everything out. I think that was just this year, wasn't it, Rhonda?
It's been a year and a half.
Oh, has it already been a year and a half?
Yeah, it's already been a year and a half.
So it didn't take that long. I'll just let you share your perspective.
Like 2 years before 2 years before that I was working on. Yeah, I got so enraptured in Lisa's conversation, though, I kind of forgot what the question was.
It was really just about the journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that is present for me at the moment is, knowing that even though I may not have been connected to people at or until I should say certain times, that we were all kind of part of this groundswell that's been coming forward. The business in your soul is my my proprietary process for helping someone birth the business, what I call the business in your soul, which is the business you run and how you run that business, right? And in 2009, when I got these words and I bought the URL, I was like, I don't know what this is. I sell windows. Like, that's what I used to do. I'm like, I don't really know what this is, but I think this is something, right? And, and just following those prompts and following those urges, and then seeing, who crosses the path and how we were all, in essence, up to the same type of thing. And the way that I like to think about business, right? There's some people who've like really been in business, and because, how can business be a force for good, that kind of thing. I've really always used business and see business as particularly, what one might call micro businesses or, solopreneurs, and building from there is the business being the tool we've chosen to evolve our own souls. Right. And when I mean evolve our souls don't actually change. What we're actually doing is evolving our human into our soul expression. It's really more accurate. And being in the journey with you, Mark, in terms of like really coming forward into that expression with the beautiful support, of Lisa and Alan, who's so dearly missed. And by the way, I've got amazing stories just from the past week on how Alan is like pulling strings. crazy pants stuff. Like it's so great to still, like have him on the team. Right. But watching that and watching how we, as we expand, our business gets to expand. And I honestly have no idea in that 3 days what we were working on my behalf. I couldn't tell you. I probably have notes somewhere. But what I knew the whole time, I can feel the energy. It starts to make me emotional. What I could feel the whole time was how important and pivotal that moment was. And my divine temper tantrums that show up to help keep us all on course when I have to have a flip out. So, no, we're going the wrong direction. Right. And just the amazingness, 3 years later, where we're sitting and what has evolved, and the just beautiful tapestry of how we all get to support one another in our great work while making the world a better place, right? And in essence, getting paid to become better humans and make the world a better place. Like, I don't know how it gets better than that.
Amen. Yes, yes. And that's what really I do. I love that message is really the conversation that I want to have, and we'll invite others to join us here in a bit around what you just said, that there's an idea of using our business, and all of us here that are in business want to make an impact with our business, but we're not developing the business. I'm not developing my business for the impact as much as I'm developing the business for my own growth. And to have that perspective, I think, is very, very different. And it's the foundational starting point for anything moving forward in the conversation. It changes everything. Noel invited me to talk today and to bring my soul advisors to talk about our Soulful Leadership Retreat, which came from the idea of how do we bring other people into this conversation. We had 5 people in this meta mind, and we're like, imagine if we had 15 people or 25 people. To have 70 in a room was absolutely amazing. And that idea of that it's not, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And to be able to create that container and see what kind of magic shows up around the structure of being a soul connector. Day 1, connecting to who you are at soul level, and day 2, connecting to why you're here. What is your client's transformational journey? What is your soul offer? What does your soul business look like? And you actually set up the foundation for that on day 2. And Lisa actually sets up the whole foundation for who am I? Connecting to who am I at soul level. We are a body, mind, and soul. And then the business. And then day 3 about your soul tribe. We're actually having a free event next Thursday called Connecting to Your Soul Tribe, which is really what most people come to me for, is to find other partners to collaborate with, people to help with their team, affiliates to share their message and things like that. And what I've found is that while that's what people want, what they really need is to be aligned with who they are at soul level, and have who they are at soul level aligned with their business. And that's what makes having your perfect customers easy, and creating a dream team that works and creates flow possible, and attracting ambassadors, what I call affiliates, or affiliate ambassadors, people that are aligned with your mission, that want to share it. And this is really the key point. This is how it all started for me, was because I was already working as a joint venture manager, and I was bringing people together and finding that the people that were doing their inner work, and the people that were aligned with who they were at soul level, when I bring them to somebody that was pretending to be or seemed to be, but really wasn't in alignment, it created a real big wobble that I then felt responsible for. And I had to fix a lot of wobbles before I figured I probably shouldn't connect people together unless they're both aligned with who they are at soul level. And that was where I was asking for Rhonda's help and Lisa's help. Like, how do I do this? And that idea of discernment became essential. And I want to talk a little bit about that. How do you guys tap into your inner guidance and use that as a tool for your business and your life and everything else? So I'm going to actually start with you on that one, Rhonda, talking about inner guidance and intuition, and creating your business from there.
Oh, goodness. That's not just a a short, simple answer right there, Mark.
It's not, but you're really good at sound bites. So I know that you can give people just the nuggets that we need.
Okay. We'll see what
It'll
comes out of our
channel
mouth.
through you.
You never know. I'm actually going to take a little funny step backward because I already mentioned it, right? I used to sell windows for custom homes in Colorado in the area of Sunrise Ranch. And I was very good at it. And they used to, ask me to do projections every year and wanted to eat like every year and then every month. And all I ever really did was kind of look at what we called our bid log of, bids I had put out. And I was just, yes, no, no, no. Oh, call him now. Right. Like it was so intuitive for me that I didn't even realize that's what it was at the time. And so when I came, the interesting thing is when I came to shift over here and start this, what is now this business, ironically, I felt like I lost access to so much of that because I was trying to make a business work. Right. And something you said earlier made me think of this. There's all this external referencing. Oh, it was when you said it's more about our own evolution than the impact we're going to make. The impact's important, but when you think about if we're really focused on what we're going to do out there, that's what I refer to as external referencing. It's like the outside world is our feedback. And as long as the outside world is our feedback, we are likely to get pulled off course on the regular. So instead, when we work with internal sourcing, not only are we going to have more access to our intuition, end up places that are kind of unexpected because we're letting ourselves be guided, and really more satisfaction, more fulfillment. As long as we're seeking things that are out there, even if it's a great impact for somebody else, there is a hollowness that ends up happening for ourselves because we're supposed to be the source of something specific, right? So, I mean, always first and foremost, it's, it sounds like a pitch when I say it, but I'm sorry, it's the tool I use. The tool I offer is the tool I use the most, right? Being aligned with my divine coordinates, making sure that I am using the map of my soul and making sure that my compass is working properly so that I can be headed in the direction that I'm supposed to. And really understanding that our purpose ultimately isn't what we do, which is really turns things on its head, particularly for people who want to serve the world. But when we understand that there's a specific frequency that we're born, we were sent here to hold this frequency, the frequency of our soul, and that learning how to vibrate at that frequency, specific only to you, is the fulfillment of your purpose. Right? The mastery of that embodiment is the fulfillment of your purpose. And then from there, you're going to be called to do different things, right? Like this project or that cause, whatever it might be a business. It might not be a business. To your point earlier, we all have a purpose though. And so when it gets narrowed into, an advocacy or philanthropic experience or a business, like we're the only ones that got tapped on the head by the purpose fairy? No. Right? If you're born, you have a purpose. It is actually a frequency and a state of being. And that is what will change the world. And then some of us, crazy or lucky, I don't know, dive in and put ourselves out there in this way. And what I know is the more attuned and aligned I am to the frequency that is my soul, the knowing is just there, right? It's just present. It's just accessible. And when I don't listen to it, that's when I get my hat handed to me, said the nice way.
And I think that's what I learned from you. That was what, for me, the practical advice for me learning to be intuitive was listening to my intuition. Just shut up and listen, and then
do what it says. Yeah. There's an intuitive tool that I teach in a couple of different events that we do called the body pendulums. So some of you may have heard of this. So it's actually using your body as a pendulum, right? You get neutral and then you check what's my yes, what's my no. The body moves, you listen. So I was doing a retreat on Maui quite a few years back, and we had it. A lot of people left, but there were still some people there. So we were like shopping on the last afternoon. It was really over, but we were just hanging out. One of my clients is there and she's like, oh, do that thing with me. We were at a shop. She's do that thing with me. She wanted to know if she should buy this ring. So I walked her through the body pendulum and it said no. And she bought the ring anyway. And I was like, I cannot help you. You were going to ask and then go against what your intuition just told you. I'm out. Like I can't do anything here. So yeah, we all do it though. We all do it.
And so there's that piece that's just, obviously we all have intuition, it's innate, and that's just a practice skill. But you did mention divine coordinates, and I don't want to brush over that. And I know you can't cover what divine coordinates are in 5 minutes, but again, if we're comparing it to intuition, I'm sure you can get the nuggets and the piece to me that is the evidence, that's the validation of being in alignment. To me, this was given to you as as part of who you are, as a tool for you living your purpose, but you couldn't have gotten that tool if you hadn't done the work to be in alignment, to follow your intuition, all the other stuff. So, and now it's a tool that not only can you use for yours, but I use for my business and so many other people. So tell us what you can about the divine coordinates and how that can
short. Yeah. I mean, I alluded to it without saying these are your divine coordinates. So the divine coordinates are the specific, unique energetic qualities that make up the frequency of your soul. And they're already there, right? Like they don't come into being the day we identify them. They came into being with the inception of your soul, except they're covered up, right? And they're not accessible. And throughout our life, different things have happened. Not the life experience are actually also directly correlated to your divine coordinates, but we go into these human reactions and a lot of things get covered over, and we've moved away inadvertently from that truth of who we are. And the challenge is like, we don't have perspective on ourselves. So when someone takes a personality assessment and says, oh my gosh, this is so me, I'm always like, well, yeah, you answered the questions. Like, who else do you think's going to pop out at you, right? Like, your conscious mind answered those questions. So it's only reflecting who you currently know yourself to be. It doesn't mean that's who you are, right? So that's the trick with the divine coordinates, is we can't identify our own because we can't see the picture when we're in the frame.
Right.
So, and all of that stuff we've learned how to be and we're supposed to be, like, that all is in the way. So with the divine coordinates, right, we identify these specific energetic qualities and then teach you how to vibrate in a way that moves you closer to that frequency, how they coordinate, and then what is the coordinate. It's a double entendre that I didn't know for years was there. Like, for me, initially, it was about the location, your locator code on the map of the universe is what I always called it. And then one day I was like, oh, but there's this other thing, is they have to coordinate in a particular way in order to be able to work, right? So again, so many surprises. It didn't come from me, it came through me. But one of the side effects, that's what I literally call it. I also call them secondary benefits, but it's a side effect of being in alignment, is increased intuition. It's absolutely increased intuition. The more aligned you are, the more feedback you're going to get. And your responsibility really is to listen. I joke, my job is just to listen and obey, which is a really hard thing for, this recovering control freak, right? Like, I'm supposed to just do what I'm told. What? So I understand people who have a hard time grasping that initially, and but I know it can be done because I did it.
And I love
Did I
that.
answer your question, Mark?
Absolutely. One of the things that we talk about, especially with the training that I got from Alan, and what I bring in around the 8 steps of the client's transformational journey, and part of it is the client meets a guide, and the guide gives them the map. So I appreciate you giving me the map.
I
It took me
appreciate
a while
you.
to start using it.
I was gonna say, I wasn't gonna say it like that, but I was gonna say, I appreciate that you started using it.
Yeah, it certainly helps. And it's funny because we're talking about conscious evolution and bringing our gifts to the shift, and this has been a great gift. And I'm looking over here to my side, and I'm seeing these Karmic warrior cards that have a fresh smudge ready to go here, and then we're going to get into those. But that's one of the gifts that you bring to the shift, Lisa. You mentioned a little bit about the Karmic warrior process. I'm curious again how it relates to business. I love the idea of clearing our karma again, just for our own path. And maybe that's all it is. Tell me how you, because you've been
Well,
helping
it's just,
entrepreneurs, but maybe that's not even, that's the same.
yeah, I mean, I think it just goes again, my mission, or it's my belief that the greatest contribution any of us can make to humanity is our own awakening. So that, you can't, through your business, whatever your business is, if you're not in, I don't want to say only awakened people can change the world, because that's not true. That's not true. But it certainly helps. So of course, that's where I, feel that my work comes in. But interesting that we're talking about intuition, because the oracle cards do a lot. And one of them is they help you to trust your intuition. I think that one of the most dangerous things that anybody can do to block their intuition is to say, I don't know. And I get really mad at my clients when they say, I don't know. I give people one or two, get out of jail free cards on the I don't know. But if you start saying I don't know over and over again, you're blocking your own intuition. I believe that everybody knows, in your heart. So
How does somebody shift that? What do you do when your clients are saying that? How do you train them out of I don't know?
I ask them, what if you did know? I mean, because I believe we all do know. It's just that you're not confident in what you know. You don't trust your own intuition. And here's why I believe that people don't trust their intuition. Number one, we're not socioculturally in the West, we're not, it's sort of intuition has been dismissed over reason. You need to be reasonable, not intuitive. And so what's happened is we've outsourced our intuition. We go to our best friend, our family members, our colleagues, and ask them, what do you think? What do you think? Or we crowdsource our intuition and we go make a post on Facebook and we write this huge long post about, I don't know what to do about this problem. What do you think? And then you get 50 responses that all say different things. And so, of course, you get confused and you doubt yourself even more. When you say, I don't know, and then you outsource your intuition and you crowdsource your intuition, it is the number, that's exactly what it's the trifecta of creating more confusion and doubt for yourself. So stop doing those things. Trust that you do know. If you tell yourself, I don't know, ask yourself, well, what if I did know? And then do not crowdsource or outsource anymore, at least for a while. Of course, it's good to get opinions sometimes or get feedback, but if it's a thing that you do. But the other thing that I do, sort of like Rhonda was saying, it's the tool she uses, so it's the tool she's going to recommend. For me, the Oracle is one of those things that I use with my clients, because the Oracle is your energy. The way I use the Oracle is I have my clients infuse and activate the Oracle with their energy signature, so that when you ask the Oracle a question, it's a living entity and it will give you an answer that is totally for you. It has your energy in it. And so even if it seems like I don't understand what this card is saying, if you just trust whatever is there and just assume that there is something there for you, it's a good way to start cultivating intuition, is using the Oracle. And you don't have to use my Oracle. You can use any Oracle to do that, to start cultivating. Well, what if this card, my pick really is something sourced from a deeper well of wisdom that is a part of me already, and I can trust this. So it's just practice. It's just practicing.
Renee has animal spirit cards that I got her for her birthday last year, and again, same thing, and it's very interesting. Like when there's a certain intention or question that you're asking, and they can come back. But your cards are different. I mean, I know people who do tarot cards, and there are lots of different oracle cards, but the traditions that they're based on. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that unique flair that your cards have.
Yeah, so the cards that I use are based on my system of karma clearing, but they're not like Lisa Engles Witter.
Right.
They're actually based in yoga wisdom traditions. And so everything about the cards hold within them, each card holds within it a core principle and practice of yoga wisdom. And it's split into 6 different suits, and each suit has a really specific type of practice that goes with it on one side of the card. And then here, let me just show you really quick.
Sure.
So on one side of the card is a principle, and on the other side of the card is a practice. So I have on one side of the card would be a principle of awakening, or it's a suit, and then there's a message on it, and this one says Shakti, and there's 2 different messages. There's an upper message and a lower message on it, and one of the messages is, or interpretations, refers to when you're in your power, when you're fully in your power, how you will experience that principle in life, and the other is when you're not in your power, how you'll experience that principle in life. And so in this way, you can use the oracle. I mean, the oracle isn't the only part of the work that I do. It's just a tool that I use in the bigger pieces. It's really, I created it in order to make these principles and practices accessible to anybody, so that you don't have to know anything about yoga philosophy and be a weird geek like me who likes to study that stuff. But that it's very accessible to anyone. And so that's just a quick, I don't know if I answered your question on that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, very much. Again, these are fantastic tools for using intuition and tapping into that. I want to I don't know if it's in the chat, but we'll make sure that we put links. We have a couple of different events. One next Thursday on December 8th, we're having a Connect to Your Soul Tribe workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop from 12 until 3 on Thursday, December 8th. And that's about basically a condensed version of what we're going to be doing on day 3, which is talking about attracting your perfect customer, building your dream team, and collaborating with affiliate ambassadors. But more importantly, it's an experience. It's an engagement. We want people to see that it's not a normal type of like a conference where there's talking heads up there giving information. Everyone here is aware that information does not create transformation. It really is about integration. And so that's what we want to kind of give people a sample of. So if it's something that you might be interested in, we would love to have you there. And then on February 9th, 10th, and 11th in Orlando, we'll be having a live event. We're very, very excited. It's at the it's called the Soulful Leadership Retreat. It's at Reunion Resort, and the theme is Tools for a New Way of Being, with a subtitle of Soul Family Reunion in Real Life. So we're really, really excited about that. And again, kind of just going along this theme that first connecting to who you are, connecting to why you're here, and then connecting to your soul tribe. But it's really about you connected to all the other people in the room. So if it's something that you're interested in, please let us know. And I want to go back to both Rhonda and Lisa about some of the practical application, going back to, like Rhonda, you had the soulful, it was the soulful business planning retreat that really talked about how to kind of set the intention of that. And then there's the actual integration of that, of using it. And so I want to hear from both of you how you help your clients to get stuff done, to go from the ideas that we talk about integrating our soul into our business, but how do you actually implement that? How do you help people go from idea to implementation?
Wait,
Rhonda, do you
wanna
want to start?
go first?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know, do I talk about soulful business planning? It depends, right? So actually, I mean, divine navigation has two paths. There's a personal path and there's a business path. Because like I said, to me, it isn't just about, everyone's got a soul. Everyone was born for the purpose of holding a specific frequency. And there's still implementation, right? They're showing up in the world to do the thing from the beingness. Right. I'm actually literally almost finished with an article I'm publishing next week on being versus doing. That'll be on the website. So, that energy that's behind the actions is what creates the results. And that's always been true, even if no one said it. Otherwise, we could all take the same exact actions and get the same exact results. And I think we can all say we know that's not how it works. Right. So it's the aligned beingness even more importantly. And so, what I know is that there are no such thing as external obstacles. There are only internal obstacles that are expressing externally or that are being projected on something external.
Yeah.
Like you said at the start, it's an inside job. So the more aligned that people are, the easier it tends to be to get them to take action. The places where it's still a challenge, the way that I would probably say it is that your humanness is still getting in the way. and there's a real, especially for people who feel like they are called to do something big. I saw in the chat earlier, somebody said something about what is mine to do. Super important to know that answer. Right. That's a question I've asked for a really long time from my clients, is being clear on that, because there's a lot of causes that I care about, and I am one person and have a set number of hours. And what am I going to wake up every morning and dedicate my life to? That first and foremost isn't just a particular cause, right? It's an energy. And when you have that clarity, it's a lot easier to know what to do and to stop doing the things that don't actually matter. Right. And so, you happen to mention soulful business planning, which for me bridges the people who hate to plan and the people who over plan, right? Because over planning puts you into a box and it stifles creativity. It doesn't allow you to use your intuition, and you're just doing it because you said you do it. And again, it feels like this really outside of you kind of experience. And then people who hate to plan, and I would say I was one of those, I tended more towards that direction. It's just a little floaty, right? And there's no focus to it. And if you don't have focus, you can't have forward momentum. Both are really solved, in my experience, with alignment with your soul, right? And knowing exactly what are the directions to the destination my soul is taking me to.
It's so good to hear you say that, because the expression that to a hammer, everything is a nail. And
Yes.
my hammer, the nail is alignment. Oh, it's always alignment. Alignment is the answer to everything. So it was great to hear you say that. Yeah.
That's because alignment is your south coordinate,
Oh, that's
your
right.
divine coordinates. But I would actually say that is more like a staple for you, because your nail is always the center of your coordinates, creating harmonious community.
But
Which is why you are part of this community and why you're so amazing at gathering people who need to connect, right? So that you can align this person who is in their divine purpose with that person who is in their divine purpose, right? And then all together, we have this amazing harmonious community of people who are doing the thing they're supposed to be doing in the world, based in their beingness, always. And what can we create when we come together like that?
Yes. And I want to share my divine coordinates. If you want to share yours, you can, and then we'll let Lisa answer that similar question about how getting people into action, or what is necessary as a kind of a call to action from here. And I know that we have a bunch of questions, so I'll let Bob we'll bring up some of the questions that might be in the chat. But I
You
wanted to
want
share.
me to show your divine coordinates?
Sure. Do you have them handy?
I do. I can get them very quickly.
Yes. Okay, so I am divine purpose, aligned through self-worth and recognition, awakening harmonious community.
So let's translate like what you do in the world and the way you bring people together is that he aligns divine purpose, because the way he said it is in the receiving mode for him. That is, as Lisa called, like that is his awakening point. And then when he shares it, it's aligning divine purpose. And in his case, we figured out it's not about aligning people with their divine purpose. It's aligning this person who's in their divine purpose with that person who's in their divine purpose, right? Making sure that their self-worth is there and they recognize their gifts, their talents, what they're up to. And then that awakens harmonious community. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I think the visual for visual people, like it's hard to find. It doesn't have any context without the visual in my
and especially being a compass and all of that other stuff, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Do you want to share yours as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll let you read it.
Yeah. I am truth empowered through authenticity and possibility, recognizing potential.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
That is you.
I mostly only get to say them to someone else on our team meetings because my team all has their coordinates. And so before we start any meeting, we set the container with our coordinates. Like, here's what each of us is bringing to the space. So I don't get to be witnessed in them except for then.
I love to be able to wrap up with witnessing you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Lisa, we were just again talking about like kind of how do we apply this wisdom that you share? How do you help people apply your wisdom that you've learned?
Yeah, well, interesting. One of the main suits of my oracle is a line. It's one of the 6 suits. So yeah, so there's a couple of pieces here for when I work with people. One is getting very clear, helping them to get clear on, is what you want to do and what you want to manifest divine will or egoic will? Because we got to figure out where that resistance is coming from. And generally speaking, it's divine will is a choiceless choice. It's something that feels like I don't have a choice. This is it no matter what. I mean, I know that's how I felt with my business. I didn't care if anybody thought that karma was weird and karmic warrior, and who's going to like that? I mean, it's so obscure. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all to start a business called the Karmic Warrior, but that was my choiceless choice. It was just what the divine wanted to express in me, through me, as me. So one of the practices that I have my clients do is to have a daily inquiry of asking, not what do I want? See, this is where I go a little bit. What I know that Barbara was talking about when she said, what is your heart's desire? Could get misconstrued and could get easily mixed up with egoic desire, because you think, oh, emotionally, I want this so bad, but that's egoic desire. Really, what Barbara was talking about was divine desire. And so we can ask ourselves daily, what does the divine desire to express and experience through me today? And if that's a daily inquiry and you use your intuition and really tap into intuition, just let that follow. It's hard to get stuck when you're always inspired by divine desire. And so in yoga wisdom and yoga tradition, there are these powers of the divine, and these powers of the divine are inherent within you. And when you recognize these powers of the divine as your own inherent powers, it becomes very, very hard to get stuck and resist anything. And so 3 of these powers, there's 5, but the 3 that matter to this discussion is the power of will, the power of knowing, and the power of acting. And so this power of will expresses itself as a creative impulse or a creative urge to express the fullness of our being. And I think anybody here will recognize that you've had that experience, whether it's often, or maybe you've had it, at some point or another, or you have it like every day, or, you've had it a few times in your life. But if you'll notice, something really interesting happens when you have a creative urge, when there's the urge to express yourself or experience something, and you don't know how to do that thing, you will go and find out how to do that thing. And that's the power of knowledge. That's the divine power of knowledge. So all action is supported by the power of will and the power of knowledge, because knowledge then drives our actions. And so it's these three powers, the power of willing, knowing, and acting, that drive us to do what we do in the world, especially if it's building a business. So if someone is stuck in like, oh, I'm resisting doing this thing, I always go to, well, is this thing something that you want, or is it something that the divine wants to express and experience in you, through you, as you? That's, first of all, let's get clear on that. Because if it's something that the divine wants, we can work with that. It's pretty easy to then just move through these empower someone so that they recognize, oh, I have the power of will, I have the power of knowing, I have the power of acting. It's all going to fall into place. It's, I think Rhonda was saying, like, it's just about the timing. Like, you don't know when it's going to happen. When I sat down and was with you guys in 2019 building my own business, I only had an inkling of an idea that it was going to be something about karma clearing, and I'm not sure anything else. I just know that this is the general thing, and each step of the way was revealed when I was ready for it and when it needed to present itself. So sometimes being stuck isn't really being stuck, it's just you're not ready for that next piece to be revealed to you yet. So patience comes in this case too. Like, have patience and trust that what's showing up right now is what you're supposed to work with, and that you'll be given that next piece. Maybe if you reframe it, I'm not stuck. I'm just being given right now what it is that I'm supposed to be given right now, and the rest will reveal itself in due time.
Oh, so much I love about that. I was grinning. Some of you might have seen it. I was just filled with joy thinking about how I'm so lucky to have these amazing women as my soul advisors, and just the wisdom that you each have. When you were talking about, like, first, let's get clear on that. Like, is this something that you want, or is this something that your soul wants? Because obviously, if it's something that your soul wants, there's no denying it. And like you said, you can figure that out. But so often what we think we want is going back to what Rhonda said about being externally referenced, and that it's not really even something I want. It's something I thought I want because everybody else told me that this is what I wanted. Or even that I arbitrarily picked that this is what I thought I should want. And so that clarification alone is brilliant wisdom. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So and again, this was wrapping up about kind of integrating this wisdom into our normal life, and how do we take action? And sometimes the best action is not taking action, and being able to know when to do that. I know we have a couple of questions, so I want to be able to answer those before we wrap up. I think Victoria was one of the people that had a question. Noel or Bob, do you want to see if Victoria wants to ask her question? It was about, I think, divine coordinates.
And so I'm here tonight going, my email address is solar activation, like SOULAR. And the business name that I'm trying to figure out, create, yes, your essential self, learning to live by design, not by default, because we evolve faster together. It, is experiential group processes. And I came up with this idea 16 years ago, and it hasn't come to pass yet. And now I'm doing this course And then Bob got me here. And so I'm here and I'm listening to all of this and I'm like, huh. And I don't know if you saw it earlier, but this is what I drew. Let's see.
Yep.
Can you see that image?
I do, yes.
And I'm like,
How
wait.
intuitive is that?
I'm like, wait, what? That's what you just had. So I'm like,
Well, looks
I
an awful lot
am,
alike.
I am supposed to be here now. And I got the chills coming with they're supposed to be here. And I'm like, really? Because I've had 16 years of dancing around this and I've had to go through, I'm a lotus flower now, let's put it that way. So I am looking outside of myself for answers, even asking this question, but I'm trying to figure out who am I supposed to be here serving? What am I supposed to be doing? And I'm like, oh, shine my own light brighter. But any one of you three or four, yeah.
Victoria, I would highly recommend that you take Mark up on his generous offer for December 8th.
I signed up already.
Oh,
Okay, because it sounds like I've known you for a while, and it sounds like this is exactly the right call for you to show up on, dear.
Yes, and so how do we both find the answers ourselves, which we can't necessarily do by ourselves 100%. So then we're looking for help out here, but then
we hear your question. We hear your question.
They got it.
Have a trusted advisor.
Well, look, Mark, how long did it take you to find your two soul advisors here?
40 years.
Yeah.
40, so 16 is good.
You're ahead of schedule, Victoria. Good.
Yeah, you're ahead of schedule. We got you scheduled for December 8th. You're on your way, baby.
So Rhonda, I saw you nodding because I think this is an important thing that you bring up. There's a contradiction. Like, how do you get all the answers within when we need to have a guide and a mentor? So how do you rectify that, Rhonda?
Well, I think Lisa said it. So there's a difference between a trusted advisor and like a mentor or following a formula, and your word, Mark, discernment is so very important. Lisa and I talk about it in slightly different language, right? In terms of, I think she said the egoic will and the divine will, right? I talk about personality and the soul. It's the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so frequently what real external referencing is the personality perspective, right? So you still might look for things in the outer world or have support from the outer world, but it's like, where's that driver coming from? So from the personality perspective, tends to come from a lack and a seeking, and something out there will fill me, right? Where that inner sourcing, a trusted advisor is going to connect you to that inner sourcing, right? Like when we do the identification of someone's divine coordinates, it's not me or one of my coaches telling you who you are. That would go against everything that my divine coordinates say and that I stand for, right? The whole world wants to tell you who you are. I want to give you experience of who you are. And when you have an experience of who you are, it's also harder to argue with me about who you are, right? Like it's harder to argue for your limitation and your smallness because you just had an experience of it. So it is like a tightrope walk. And as long as that trusted advisor continues to bring you back to yourself, then it's a good call. I have a harder time in any format of someone just like telling you the thing. Because even once we identify someone's coordinates, there's so many things I can tell you. I'm like, oh, someone with these kind of coordinates has probably experienced things like this. And here's your primary pattern and watch out for that, right? Like I can say all these things and I don't do it that way. I don't do it as a reading. We do it in a way that we give you the tools to see how it's supposed to work. And then you get to have these insights because that's when transformation occurs.
That was such a great answer for everybody. I hope that you heard that, Victoria, that idea, the discernment between is the person empowering you or are you relying on them for the answer?
Well, and in seeking an answer, it's my own resonance as to whether it makes sense to me also. But you were talking about purposeful business and developing that. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do is what,
Mhm.
like, I'm here to be in business. That is, it's time for me to do that. So which one of you three would be not necessarily on this call, unless you have an answer, I'm open, but any tip on really, what question to ask myself, what something
Victoria?
to find that answer. Yes.
Victoria, I think we need to move on because other people
Okay.
want to contribute, but I do, you're signed up, you're in good hands, believe me. You're going to get a lot of guidance, and so I'm just very, very happy you came tonight. Just extremely happy. And I also wanted, before Bob has a couple questions he wants to bring in from chat or elsewhere, want to say aloha to Marion and Glenn in Kauai, who are they had
Aloha. We've been here since the beginning, but just on Facebook. So we've heard everything because we were traveling.
Are you in
So,
Hawaii?
yeah, we're in
Travel.
Hawaii.
Oh, you
But-
are.
Yeah, so thank you all so much.
so
So
good to
good to
see
meet
you
you.
too. I haven't seen you in a
Great to see
while.
you.
Yeah, talk about connection with Barbara Marx Hubbard. You all used to be roommates with her for years.
Housemates.
Hopefully we'll hear more about that on the 22nd. But
And
Bob,
Marion actually will be doing talking about the revolutionary agreements at our event. After we come back from lunch each day, we share 3 of the 12 agreements, and we actually integrate them. Marion will set us up with an exercise so that's the whole thing about the event, is that we want it to be experiential.
yeah. Oh, you're muted, Marion. And yeah, we brought in the revolutionary agreements at our last ECC in Houston. I don't know if Peggy, if you were still there or whatever, we had a whole segment on that.
Those
David
kisses
was.
were for Rhonda. Those kisses were for Rhonda and Ronda Renee and Lisa. I'm so happy I'll see you in Orlando. And Bob and Noel, it's always such a pleasure to see you. And oh my gosh, there's David Powell. Oh, this is like a soulful reunion right here.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well, this is kind of a wonderful love circle swirl vortex thing happening. So let me ask a question back to all 3 of you. It seems work a lot with individuals in developing their business plans, their branding, a lot of things. There's someone who I've gotten to know a bit here over the last 10 weeks because she's in my Pachamama Alliance small group, Game Changer Intensive. And she's a consultant to businesses. She's an organizational development person. And she's really going through a dark night of the soul, realizing how significant her spiritual life is when she's living in a corporate environment, being an organizational development advisor to major corporations in a major city in the world. And so my question to any or all 3 of you is, I wrote down the word, talk about competition for a moment. So when you're advising someone, I mean, if you just go to Business School 101, you talk a lot about who is your competition, evaluating your competition, blah, 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 about competition. How, if you would, speak for a few minutes about, as you're coaching people, to bring forth what is truly their own heart, their own soul, their own karma into how they operate their business, to which clients will then flow to them rather than for them to have to go hunt them down. How does the conversation about competition play in your advice to people, if it does at all? In other words, market competition.
I
Mark-
can hop in on that one because I have a card for it. It's not called competition, but this one is the Liberate suit, sort of see. And what I would consider competition is this principle of separation, thinking that you experience people as others, like we experience you. It's what Barbara always talked about all the time, the zero sum experience, like us versus them, and that's how it is. And while I don't personally, generally my clients are not corporate clients, it doesn't matter. This same experience, it's just magnified in corporate reality, this experience of me versus them, other. And even what I have on the Oracle, or what the Oracle says, is when you're living in your power and you're not experiencing it, how you would experience separation is you experience diversity in all its forms as a unique expression of the one divine consciousness. So it doesn't really answer your question of how I would approach, but if I were working with someone, I would start working with helping them to see that, discover for themselves that we are all expressions of the one divine consciousness. And it really softens the experience of others, because as you all, everyone here, I know you all know that the awareness that's looking through your eyes is the same consciousness and awareness that's looking through my eyes. We're just different expressions of that same consciousness. And having a direct experience, it's a lot of the work that I do and the meditations that I lead, is bringing people to a direct experience of that, so that when you go into work and you're working with corporate, you can see things, you can perceive things differently than, while all outer circumstances may look the same, you perceive things differently. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll give a different perspective after. Rhonda, did you want to address that?
I wanted you to go next.
Okay,
I
great.
was feeling you.
Okay, great. And I love that you said it was about separation. And for me, it was about attachment. Like, to me, competition is an attachment to a result of being better than them, or it's when you live in a place of surrender, you don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing. I do not believe in competition. In my work with helping people to create collaborations, I often look for people who do the same thing, and I help them to find ways that they can work together to create something, whether it's a partnership, a collaboration, of a joint venture, a cross promotion, because no matter what you're doing, there's always something that you do uniquely different. Also, you are a uniquely different person, and some people will want to work with you and not with somebody else. But when you're in a corporate environment and you're two salespeople, I was in sales, which was a very, very competitive environment, and they were teaching me how to do sales by the number, by going to seeing a certain number of people. And in fact, for the first 5 years, they kept telling me that I wasn't doing it by the record. I wasn't seeing enough people. I wasn't covering enough territory. I was spending too long with each person. But after 5 years, they realized that I had the highest retention, I had the highest upsells, I had the lowest cancellations, I had the highest referrals. And they said, we don't know what you're doing wrong, but we want you to teach everyone else how to do it. They gave me 1 year and everybody's sales went up on our team versus everybody else's team. So there were 3 other teams. Our team's numbers all went up by spending more time. They ended up getting rid of, we were doing so well, they had to reverse it. So the idea of getting rid of competition in your mind, of saying that there is no competition, opens up all kinds of possibilities. You're not comparing yourselves to them. When you just focus on your work, it just creates more joy and more opportunity in your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen. I'll add one other thing about that. And then I hear another question in what you said, Bob. If we've got time, I would love to speak to. Agreed. There's no such thing. First off, yes, you are uniquely you. So there automatically is no competition for that. But when people do similar things, right? So if there's someone else who works in soul purpose, as I primarily do, if someone else is in that same arena, we're just on the same team. I can't serve, close to 8 billion people. Like, it's not possible, right? So we're simply on the same team. And when we can realize that we're up to the same thing, right? Because you've heard Lisa and I and Mark all say things that are so similar, and it's because we're on the same team, Right. So I feel like that eliminates competition immediately when you go, okay, so if we're talking about in business, well, how many clients do I really need in a year? Most of my clients run what I refer to as a boutique-ish empire, and 40 clients a year is actually all they need. Like, there's no competition when you realize, like, oh, well, I know 40 people that they don't know, so, and then it's taken care of, right? So anyway, there's that piece on competition. But I heard something else, Bob, about, like being in the corporate space and like, I don't know, I feel this oppressiveness. You didn't say the word, right? But I felt this oppressiveness around it. And I think the thing that is really important for everyone to remember is that we can transform a space with our energy. And like, none of the circumstances of our life have to change in order for our whole life to change. I just had a session today with a client who just had their divine coordinates identified 3 weeks ago and literally was ready to sell their business, like has been frustrated for 5 years, and her entire experience has changed in a matter of 3 weeks. Including them crossing the $1 million mark. Now, obviously, a lot happened before the last 3 weeks for that to occur. But my point is, she was ready to throw it all out because of the experience she was having. And everything has changed in 3 weeks. And she's able to, sorry, Odin is finally joining the party. He's up from his after dinner nap. Right, like, because her experience of herself changed. So when I hear stories like that, like, it just really breaks my heart that when people feel like that their outer circumstances has to create the experience they're having of themselves, when it's the other way around.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Rhonda. That's the exact circumstance I hear from this woman, because it's very clear to me that she is changing and having a completely different perspective, much through the eyes of the way all three of you have spoken. But she's in that world, and she comes to our weekly calls and says, "Gee, this is the brightest light I have in the week. I have meetings all week long, and I'm here with 10 other conscious, thoughtful people that realize what's important in life." And her light is what's shining when she goes off to those other meetings.
Yeah,
and
that's,
by the way, I'll be sending her an email tomorrow with all three of your names and December 8th
And
as well.
December, yeah, send her the links. And Bonnie, do you want to voice
Well,
in
real
yours?
quick before Bonnie, I just want to add something to what Bob just said, because I got goosebumps when you said that about her light shining.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that, it reminded me of one of Barbara's guests that came on at the very first ACE course, talking about the Trojan horse of love, about sneaking spirituality into business and being working from the inside out. And so the light that she is shining, if she can understand that she has a huge impact in the world where she is, because she's a light in a room full of darkness. So she's doing big stuff just from where who she's being.
Now I'm still going to send her to all three of you.
To do that.
Thank you all.
Yeah, don't want to keep her in the darkness, and just appreciating her light there.
Sign her up, December 8th,
Yes,
February. Bonnie, did you want to voice what you wanted to say? You wanted to share? She put something in the chat, and I'd love to hear your energy and group. There you go.
I was just wanting to say, isn't being competitive related to losing your ego? As a Reiki crystal healer, I've always found that other healers want you to go to them and don't acknowledge you, and that you're doing the same thing. So, they aren't seeing you on par. So I just sort of stay away from all of that. And because you're not cooperating with others, actually, when you're saying to them, like, not acknowledging who I am, just saying that you're supposed to go to them, that's just the way I feel.
Bonnie, I think you are spot on. I think that competition is 100% ego. Now, there's a difference between competition where it's power over versus collaboration. where you're driving each other to move forward, where you're a rising tide rises all ships. You know, there's this lift as you climb thing that Rhonda, Lisa, and I are talking about. You know, we are all doing similar work, but we're lifting each other as we climb. So that's, we want to drive each other. We want to motivate each other to go further. Just like people are, I'm thinking about competition in like sports. So like there are people that are in track and they're running as fast as they can, but when they get off the track, they're friends, but they drive each other to do more. But what you're talking about is 100% ego, where people can't, acknowledge other people's gifts.
Right.
It's also, I see it often connected to like lack and scarcity.
I just walk away when they start this. You know, I don't have time for it. Because when I go and do things with other people, we're all working together and I'm trying to make it light and easy for everybody so that it's easy to do. And I find people don't know how to do that approach. and then I had one lady say to me that we volunteered our time to sell things, and she was laughing and carrying on at the things I was saying and doing, and I was making a fun adventure, and she was so thankful by the end. She said, I was so worried about how this was going to be, but you've made it so fun for me. So, you know, it's working together and doing it joyfully. It is the whole answer, not who's better than who.
Yeah.
One more thing that, if I may, that I'll add is also really we can be egoic about not getting support from someone who does something similar to what we do. And what I have found is that sometimes it's really hard to do our own magic on ourselves, right? There's just sometimes when that reflection is needed, right? So I can say I've gone to Mark for support. I've gone to Lisa for support, you know, many other colleagues that I've gone to for support. And so, you know, just to on all sides, how we hold it, our I don't love this word, but like abundance mindset. But I don't love that word abundance because it just means a lot of something, and it can be a lot of something you don't want too. Right. But just not from that scarcity place, and really like being able to acknowledge, yes, the gifts in all the different people. And of course, it doesn't mean that we're going to work with everyone. Of course not. Like we got our own job to do too. But, you know, and I love, Marion said in the chat, I don't know if anybody else saw it, that I think you can be egoic about how cooperative you are too. Yeah. Right. Like there's all kinds of personality projections that we can tap in with.
I don't think I've ever met people that are willing to work together is the issue. Like, let's work together and coordinate together. And they're not interested in that. They're individuals and they're better. And
well, then they might not be your people.
That's what I'm saying is I haven't ever met.
Yeah, well, you have now. You can see people who are doing it. Come play.
Join the party. Join the party.
Yeah.
Bonnie, that's great.
Well, this is it's kind of hard to deal with when you aren't connecting with anybody that's on the same wavelength as you. You know, it gets frustrating after a while.
You know, I'm celebrating all this whole month. It's Barbara Marx Hubbard month, and Peggy Sue Skipper is here, and she's also a evolutionary, has written a book very much in tune with Barbara Marx Hubbard. She leads a group down in Houston, Texas, which we connected up with. And Peggy, did you want to just say something to just put your energy into this group so they can?
No, I just want to thank everybody so much. Every time I come to this group, I leave feeling so refreshed, because I've long said there can't be enough of us saying the right things in different ways. And that's what we're doing. And that is because people hear things differently. And it is just, I love the fact of, you know, we're all on the same team. I love that. Thank you so much. And not everybody's going to resonate with everything. But each three of you, even though you're presenting the same information, had a little bit different take on it. And that's so important. So I just want to say thank you. I thank you for letting me in the door.
Absolutely, absolutely. And she was at our co-creators convergence in Houston this past year, along with David, and hopefully we'll be back next year.
Yeah.
And
Peggy,
more-
something you said just reminded me of my favorite marketing advice from Rhonda. So if you guys
Okay.
have a pencil and notebook, this is the best advice I've ever received for marketing. You cannot say the right thing to the wrong people, and you cannot say the wrong thing to the right people. We're all the right people, so it didn't really matter what we said. We were showing up and singing to the choir, but it's
And
great to be with the right people.
Therein, is the answer to the competition thing too. And you said it earlier, it's like you'll attract the people that you're supposed to attract. And the ones who aren't attracted to you, well, okay. There are lots of people out there, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
There are a lot of people.
I just so appreciate everybody. Everybody, thank you so much for all you are and all you do.
May I invite Lisa and Rhonda to say any last words?
Yes.
Lisa?
Well, I'll just say it's so wonderful to finally meet Noel and Bob, who I've heard much about over the years. So yay, I finally got to drop in with you. Wonderful to see Marion and Glenn, who I look so forward to seeing in real life in a few months. So, and meeting everyone else, just wonderful. Thank you for hosting this space and
you.
having this community. What a blessing and a gift. Thank you.
I'll echo that for sure. Yeah, I've had Bob and Noel's name floating around. I've been part of the Facebook group for, I don't know, probably almost as long as I've known Mark. It's kind of this ironic thing about me. I'm actually very introverted, which people don't believe when they experience me in ways like this. So I'm a terrible joiner. I'm a great cooperator and collaborator, but I'm a terrible joiner. So I apologize for not joining in sooner. And I'm really glad that there was a specific impetus for me to show up and be with everyone tonight. And I knew, I mean, this is that intuition thing, right? Like there's plenty of things like, oh yeah, whatever. But Mark said this thing and I was like, oh yeah. And I have a very full schedule right now. And I was like, I'm really, okay. Right. And I just follow. When I get the yes, I just go.
I love that example because it's such an important way to go out. That idea that we are surrendering to our soul's greatest desire, and that if we can just surrender to that and trust that, it will lead us right where we need to be. And it's such a hard practice at times, especially when it doesn't make any logical sense. There's so many other things practically that we could be doing, but we know our heart knows where we're supposed to be. So thank you so much for listening and practicing and teaching us that.
And intuition means knowing beyond reason. So like we have to understand it's not going to be reasonable if it's intuition.
Right. Well, thank you everyone tonight. This has just been so, I'm just blown away. It's just been such a beautiful gathering, wonderful wisdom. And I cherish you all and thank you for coming. It's just been spectacular. So,
thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you next week.
yes, come back next week. And then the week after that, Maureen Edwardson will be our guest talking about unconscious, conscious co-creation. And she is also a Barbara Marx Hubbard aficionado. So we're all in the gang here.
We are the
Even you,
legacy.
Rhonda, you're honorary.
We are the legacy. And
We are the legacy.
everyone.
We are in resonance.
Right, definitely.
blessings,
That's what-
everyone. Great aloha.
Can I
so much,
just say,
everyone. That was
Yes,
wonderful.
Bonnie, go ahead.
can I say something to Lisa?
Sure.
You really brought out the when you're saying about your the divine guidance, and you're trying to fulfill it, and then all of a sudden everything stops. And so the timing was wrong, and you brought that out tonight to me. And I thank you for that, because for 6 months I've been wondering why I haven't been hearing my guidance. And they were telling me to be patient, I'm sure.
Wow.
Wonderful. Oh,
Wow.
I'm glad that landed for you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm glad you were guided to be with us again tonight, Bonnie. We love having you here.
Thank you.
Aloha, Marion and Glenn.
See
Yeah.
ya.
Bye for now.
Aloha.
Thank
Bye,
you.
David. Give love to
Bye-bye.
Talia for us.